Our today's topic is, why did the Dutch government freeze the assets of Chinese-owned chipmaker Nexperia Semiconductor? Originally published on the Chinese internet. October 13, 2025. Hello everyone. Our channel selects viewpoints and analytical articles from think tanks and well-known figures within the Chinese internet and presents them to Western readers so that everyone can understand how China thinks. If you find this helpful, please subscribe, like, and share our channel. Thank you. It should be emphasized that the content we present reflects only the original author's views. Our aim is merely to enhance readers' understanding of perspectives from the Chinese intellectual and policy-making circles. Today, market discussions are dominated by the news surrounding China's Wingtech technology and its subsidiary Nexperia, owned in Chinese as NXP Semiconductor. This isn't merely about two companies, it marks a deeper fracture in the global semiconductor supply chain. Previously, restrictions stemmed mainly from U.S. policy, forcing other countries or regions to stop cooperating with mainland Chinese firms. But this time, the rupture came from a different direction. Part 1. Background of the incident. The story begins with Wingtech's acquisition of Nexperia. In 2018, Wingtech Technology purchased Nexperia, which had been spun off from NXP for 33.2 billion yuan, an example of a small snake swallowing an elephant at the time. Wingtech was China's largest smartphone ODM company. Though it later divested that business, the deal was driven by Wingtech's founder, Zhang Zuzeng, a Guangdong University of Technology graduate who had previously worked at ST Microelectronics and ZTE, gaining experience in semiconductors and telecoms. In 2006, Zhang founded Wingtech with an initial investment of nearly 100,000 RMB. The acquisition initially received positive feedback, including from Dutch media who believed Chinese capital could accelerate Nexperia's growth. After taking over as CEO, Zhang did not micromanage. Daily operations were run by three local European executives: COO Kim Kemp, CFO Stefan Tilger, and CLO Ruben Lichtenberg. However, Wingtech's subsequent overseas expansion efforts, such as the attempted 2021 acquisition of Newport Wafer Fab in the UK, which was blocked, and a deal involving Dutch startup NXP, sparked growing political concern. The external environment further deteriorated. In April 2024, Nexperia suffered a cyberattack that exposed customer information and chip designs, deepening Dutch authorities' worries over data security. Later that year, the U.S. placed Wingtech on its entity list. Since December 2024, Wingtech's operations have faced growing obstacles, leading it to sell off its ODM assets and pin all hopes on Nexperia, its ballast stone and most valuable asset. Nexperia's power semiconductor products are critical to China's EV, industrial control, and consumer electronics industries. In September 2025, the U.S. expanded restrictions, declaring that any company over 50% controlled by an entity list firm would face the same sanctions. This directly impacted Nexperia, severely limiting its ability to transact with U.S. suppliers. Part 2. The Dutch government's intervention. Wingtech's crisis escalated on September 30 Dutch time, when the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Policy issued an order freezing Nexperia's operations. The order prohibited any changes to Nexperia's assets, IP, business structure, or personnel across its 30 global entities for 1 year. On October 1, Nexperia's CLO Ruben Lichtenberg, a Dutch national, supported by CFO Stefan Tilger, a German national, and COO Kim Kemp, German national, filed an emergency petition to the Enterprise Court for investigation and interim measures. Without a formal hearing, the court immediately suspended Zhang Zuzeng's directorship and placed the shares held by Yu Cheng Holdings Wingtech's vehicle under third-party custodianship. Following a court hearing on October 9, the court issued a ruling on October 7 to maintain and expand these emergency measures pending full investigation. It suspended Zhang's executive and non-executive roles, appointed a foreign non-executive director with decisive voting power, and placed all but one share of Nexperia under management by an independent trustee. Part 3. Impact on Wingtech. The impact is severe. Previously, Chinese ownership mainly created political and reputational risks that could be mitigated through localized operations. Now it has become an existential crisis. Supply chain disruption. Nexperia depends on global suppliers and uses U.S. technology and equipment, which may now be blocked. Market access risk. Major customers, especially in automotive and consumer electronics, may switch to alternative suppliers to avoid compliance issues. Management split. Nexperia's European leadership is under pressure to distance the company from its Chinese parent to survive. Wingtech stressed that it has always complied with all national laws, operated transparently, and contributed significantly to Europe's semiconductor ecosystem, R&D and manufacturing hubs in the Netherlands, Germany, and the thousands of employees and €130 million in Dutch corporate taxes over the past 5 years and spending up 150% over 3 years. Patents up by nearly 1,000 revenue peaking at €2.36 billion in 2022. Gross margin rising from 25% 2022 42.4% 2022 fully debt-free since October 2024 in 2024. Nexperia generated 14.7 billion RMB in revenue, about 20% of Wingtech's total. The company recently sold its SODM business to Luxhair Precision for 4.389 billion RMB to focus entirely on semiconductors. Its logic IC shipments ranked second globally, with ambitions to reach number 1, while analog ICs became a key growth area targeting automotive and AI applications. Many new Nexperia products such as NK9535 and 240W dual-port automotive controllers have achieved mass production under the AEC Q100 automotive standard. Most production, 80%, is in Dongguan, China, with 70% from its in-house assembly and testing facilities. The company's manufacturing uses mature nodes, so U.S. equipment bans have limited immediate effect. China accounts for 48% of Nexperia's revenue. However, the split management structure between the Netherlands and China means strategic, technical, and financial coordination is now chaotic. If exports from Dongguan halt, Wingtech could lose half its capacity. Conversely, if Nexperia evers ties with China, rebuilding production infrastructure elsewhere will be prohibitively difficult. Wingtech is working with international law firms and Chinese regulators to seek remedies and maintain operational stability, but the outlook remains highly uncertain. Part 4. Implications for China's semiconductor industry. The Dutch government's freeze on Nexperia's assets is a watershed moment in the global semiconductor split. It signals the end of true globalization in the chip industry. A supply chain once based on trust and shared rules is fracturing along geopolitical lines for Chinese firms. The strategy of acquiring overseas semiconductor assets is now effectively closed off. The only sustainable path forward is domestic innovation and technological self-reliance. Analysts see this as part of a broader reconstruction of global supply chains driven by US-led friendshoring and the EU's tightened foreign direct investment screening regulation. Chinese companies' overseas assets face rising systemic risk. The case also highlights the legal vulnerability of Chinese firms in Western jurisdictions where courts can issue far-reaching rulings without full hearings. It serves as a stark warning for all Chinese companies operating abroad. Legal compliance and risk diversification are now matters of survival, not choice.